case. But I like the Hecarim ban. Shy showed it the last few weeks in the OGN, and of course he's so good with these teleports, you don't want to risk him diving onto your backline and killing them.
Now there was Zed taken away against Betsy, 2-0 in the European LCS with that. LeBlanc then taken away as well, 3-1 record for Coco, a dangerous champion for him. I think it's wise that Gambit get rid there.
Yeah, and we see as soon as Zed is banned, that's where Gambit says, okay, that was our counter pick to the LeBlanc, so we have to ban it now. Rek'Sai is still open. Again, CJ, they can give it over to Diamond. He's been great on Rek'Sai, but we've also seen him play multiple other champions, even the likes of Evelyn.
Speak of the devil.
That I'm not a fan. Okay, so Rek'Sai banned away. Nidalee should be coming in then for Diamond here, or Morgana, which we know they like to take early.
A concern here, though, is the fact that Janna has still been left open for MadLife. So if they choose to go for a hard engage composition, even though the cannon is not there, they have run Sejuani, which offers you the ability to go for that really hard engage. Janna, especially if she goes with the build that Gorilla has shown to work with the QSS early, would completely shut that down.
Honestly, if you go Morgana here for Gambit, you don't really give away the Nidalee because we know Ambition doesn't play it, even though he's a former mid laner. He can play it. He hasn't shown it yet. So if you got Morgana at least, now to take Annie in this case, but had they taken this Morgana, they could have built a bit of a poke comp, which doesn't really care about that Janna later on, but it seems like instead, full-on hard engage from Eddie.
Surprisingly enough, though, Ambition has actually played almost 30 games of solo queue of Nidalee as of recently, and has almost an 80% win rate on that champion.
Oh, now he's going to pick it too.
Well, my friend, that's not... There's a reason why I'm called the Prophet.
Doing pretty well here at least. Scouting the solo queue and everything. I really don't understand any first pick though from Eddie. Yes,
surely there's better options as a first
like
pick.
Lissandra, Nidalee, Morgana. I mean, there's a lot of options coming in instead. We know MadLife prefers to play the disengaged supports. Yes, he can play Annie, but it's mainly Janna and Nami for him. So it's not even a takeaway in that case, and it's not really a flex pick either. We've only seen support Annie coming in from Gambit, so I'm a little bit surprised about their first pick.
If you go for the really hard engage, I'm still really hoping for that Sejuani from Gambit, or I guess Lee Sin, but just something that can really get on the backline and instantly pop them, I think they really have a good shot on what they'd be going for. They're going for the Lee Sin and the Corki. Now, Corki is a champion that offers so much magical damage in the mid-game power spike as well, that lends me to believe that perhaps an Aurelia pick coming out from Cabochard would eventually, because you need a little bit more damage, because Lee Sin doesn't pack that much in the late game. Same goes with the Corki, and it lends your top laner to be a physical damage carry because you already have the magic damage from the Annie and the Corki.
I think Gambit can be fairly happy that they get Lee and Corki after first picking Annie there. I mean, Corki is the favorite champion of Space up until now, played in most games on it, 4-for-4 record. But what does that now leave open for CJ on the other side?
We can see double AD carry come in for them with Ezreal mid lane if they want to. They've played it before. It's going to be an all-in kite composition. I'm still expecting the Janna for MadLife. You have Lulu top lane. Okay, Nami works as well in this case. And now with Ezreal mid lane, we might even see like a Kog'Maw composition for them, which is so hard to play against unless this Annie can flash tippers perfectly in the mid game. Because once you go too late game and you get QSS and everything on your AD carries, that's where suddenly Gambit won't really find any ways of engaging the fights.
Now, I'm really worried for CJ right now because they're picking such an incredibly difficult team comp to execute without having any frontline. You have the Nidalee, and if you want to run the Juggernaut double AD comp, you really don't need that Nidalee. You have enough with the double AD carry. Right now, you don't have a tank. You don't have anybody that can really stand in the front line and soak up any damage for your team. So this is a very difficult team comp to execute, and absolutely love the Twisted Fate pick. We have seen it work against the Juggernaut comp and can really get into the backline, and just if Kog'Maw mispositions a 2-second stun, nullifies the entire comp.
That's very true, but we have seen CJ and G Tigers run these Juggernaut compositions, these kite comps where they don't have a front line and they play so well around it anyway, because everyone knows exactly when to go and deal some damage back away. When you have Nami, Lulu buffing up a hyper carry as well, you need 2 or 3 hits and a target is out of that fight. So for Gambit side here, Jarvan top lane, I've heard them talk about it a few times. Normally you run Ignite with it as well, not a teleport, and it's just all in win your laning phase. TF Jarvan together, that's a fantastic combo of basically shutting down Shy on this Lulu. He's gonna die multiple times. Like, you can just dive him easily after level 6, not a problem. But really Gambit's composition here, they have to snowball early on. Otherwise, this comp from CJ is going to completely outskill them.
They have the tools to snowball this perfectly. The Annie is going to be able to always lock down the bottom lane of a Nami Kog'Maw. 0 mobility, 0 defensive spells to get out unless the bubble lands. Any Annie flash stun will get this comboed with the Twisted Fate. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see Space take another cleanse in this matchup, but we're not going to see it.
No, and also Ezreal mid lane doesn't really offer any pressure on a Twisted Fate at all. Ezreal is a fairly passive laner, and he's not even, I mean, yeah, you can use your ulti to push the wave, but then you won't have the side lane pressure in that case. So TF should find openings to go to these side lanes here as long as Betsy plays it well. He just got to be careful very early on that the Nidalee doesn't come in and like really set him back, and then he can choose the lanes he wants to go to.
Yeah, we will see a cool draft coming out here from Gambit. We'll see what they can do with it as we get on the Rift right after this.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Intel Extreme Masters. Gambit Gaming taking on CJ Entus in our first match here in Group B. Gambit coming out with the aggression, a lot of hard CC. Do you think CJ is going to be able to survive the early game, guys?
I mean, that's going to be the big question here, right? Because I think with CJ running the Juggernaut composition, which for those of you who don't know is a lot of, basically, it's a pseudo protect the Kog'Maw comp, but Kog'Maw is the front line in this composition. Right. You buff him with all of these shields. They have the Nidalee heal as well in this case, and so he really has to bait the other team into these engages, but a lot of hard CC coming in the lane, so it's about CJ actually living long enough to group.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, it is time, guys, to get on to Summoner's Rift and see which of these teams is going to head to the winners match here in Group B. There is Gambit Gaming. And on the other side of the map advancing is CJ Entus. On the red side, the crowd already chanting here in Katowice, an IEM classic yet again.
I'm very much looking forward to Betsy's Twisted Fate. This is a kid that I've been very impressed with in the EU LCS, and as a team, Gambit have got so many tools to get out of the laning phase ahead. But I think it's all going to hinge on Betsy's ability to sync with Diamond and impact those lanes. Those first Destinies and Gates and Roams are going to, I think, really dictate the rest of the game.
And, you know, it's important to mention, too, this is Ambition's first game on Jungle Nidalee. Now, Ambition, the old mid laner for CJ Entus Blaze, and a renowned Nidalee player, and it has been a bit confusing as to why he hasn't played this champion sooner.
Well, yeah, we talk about this like every week on Champions. Soul that Ambition, he's got this great jungle pick in Nidalee, but now we finally see it for the first time here at the Intel Extreme Masters. It's cool to see the Twisted Fate on the other side, too, because that's something that we haven't seen ourselves in Korea for a long time. How do you think Coco's Ezreal is going to be matching up against that?
It should be fine. I mean, it'll be mostly a farm lane, but the thing is, Ezreal doesn't have a lot of wave clear pre-6, so Betsy can, in fact, get a pretty free ultimate right off at 6 if he manages his lane properly. We do see the lane swap coming in.
Yeah, I want to see how Pinoy handles himself on this Corki, and in all of his previous games, he tends to play very aggressively, really getting into the faces of his opponents, and Pinoy is the kind of guy that will Valk in. Which could be the death of him. So we should keep our eyes on that.
Well, we do see the lane swap is being called right here. Pinoy and Edward do take the Gromp. And so Pinoy, a little bit of damage right here, but he will be heading up into that top lane, finding the Kog'Maw and the Nami.
They're
it's a bit rough.
They're going to give that level 2 to Edward. I wonder if they're going to try something here in the mid lane. We'll see. Ooh, but already Cabochard waiting. I don't know if they're going to get an opportunity on Coco. It doesn't look like it. So yeah, Edward heading back up again.
Now, they invested a lot in that gank right there by giving up the experience and taking so much damage onto Pinoy. Pinoy will hit that level 2 a bit earlier all the same, but trying to lock down that Ezreal early, chaining the anti-stun into the gold card, but Coco is very difficult, and he also has that cleanse in this matchup. So best probably could have happened is getting a summoner down right there, but instead they don't get a whole lot, but still the lane advantage heading over to Gambit, but early pot used by Pinoy as well. So they could come back via some nice trading.
Yeah, Pinoy took so much damage from that Gromp. Gambit gonna look to, I think they have to look to snowball. The later this game goes, the scarier and the scarier CJ Entus become. So with Diamond back on Lee Sin, Edward coming up against MadLife, this is a matchup that AD himself is super excited about. CJ and Gambit, while having different players this time, have got a lot of history, and those two in particular, along with, of course, Shy and Diamond, adding into the mix.
Yeah, very true. I mean, both of these teams this season in their respective regions have had pretty tumultuous seasons so far. And MadLife, Edward, maybe you could argue both on a bit of an upswing recently, but still a lot of questions about these guys. It'll be interesting to see where both of these teams end up at the end of their respective splits.
Now, one thing I do want to touch on for Gambit in particular, they have been growing in play style, in team fights, in champion compositions as they've gone week to week. But Diamond has had very mixed success from the beginning of the split to the later stages. And there's actually quite a few people that think it's because of Diamond hard carrying the early game that Gambit had that upswing. So we'll need to see whether he can do the same in this match.
You know, one thing we haven't mentioned yet is Betsy started boots on TF, which is kind of interesting.
Well, it's sort of just dodging skill shots as a farm lane allows you to get a lot more of those biscuits as well. So it's not too much of a surprise right here. I am a bit intrigued by the early skirmisher Saber onto Diamond, so we'll see how hard he wants to commit to going into the enemy jungle.
It's a Diamond special.
Yeah.
He was the first EU jungler to really go hard on, skirmisher Saber. It was in certain matchups at first. Went away from it in recent weeks, but obviously gone back to it here for IEM.
That was a close Aqua Prison there for MadLife. And Edward, I mean, he's on that Annie. You've got that hard CC, but you're so fragile on that champion. And especially against something like Nami Kog'Maw. If you get hit by one Aqua Prison, you're going to be taking a lot of hits.
On the same token, I think if Gambit find an all-in and avoid the bubble, there is potential for kill threat. But
gold card on a Coco. They're going to come in, and Diamond chasing Coco barely escapes with his life. It's one of those situations where if you saw that ignite in the mid lane, that would have been a kill, but luckily for Coco, it's Ghost Flash for Betsy.
Also, if he had probably had the Chilling Smite instead, that actually would have been a kill right there instead of the Saber.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
Take a look at the bubble in the top lane. Exhaust goes out. Summoner heal's been used. Eddie's trying to do the best he can, but first blood secured by Space. Eddie's trying to reply back. Ignite.
Wow.
He's going to get cleansed away, healed away rather.
Yeah,
First blood for CJ.
MadLife manages to keep Space alive, and yeah, first blood going to Space on CJ Entus. Man, before this last season, that's not something we said a lot in Korea.
Yeah, and two, getting the early kill onto Kog'Maw is huge because he is the focus point of this composition. It is imperative that he get that advantage so that he can survive and deal as much damage as possible into the late game. So we are getting close to Betsy's level 6, however, and it's all going to be about Twisted Fate right here. Betsy must get successful ganks in the next 10 minutes, or this game is probably going to run out of control for Gambit. CJ is too good at team fighting. They're too good at kiting. This is their mode of play, and so they'll be in the comfort zone with a fantastic composition to close.
Yeah, the CJ method of winning has never relied on getting early leads. It's relied on very good decision-making and team fighting in the mid to late game. They've certainly got a composition they can do that with.
I think both of these team comps actually exemplify their respective teams' play styles.
Yeah, very true.
CJ's all about the kiting, as you've already mentioned, Monty, and Gambit have shown consistently they're all about team fights. And they really, really like all-inning. You can see Eddie's roaming down to this bottom lane, but I don't see a lot of kill threat onto a flash and wild growth Shy while he's under his turret.
It looks like they might be thinking about trying it anyway. Yeah, Diamond coming down, Edward running up. They saw him with the ward, though.
And there's support from Ambition coming in. This could get risky, but Destiny's available. I think they're going to use that one, Doa. They're going in.
Stun, there's the Destiny coming in. Shy getting blown up pretty quick. True Shot Barrage comes through as well, too. They do get the kill onto Shy. Ambition remains under the turret, and that was a successful gank for Gambit. They made it out. Oh, but actually, Betsy's still a little bit low. Gotta dodge. He messes around, did the tri-brush, avoids the spear. Oh, but Coco comes in, helps Ambition pick that one up. Diamond on the run now as MadLife comes down as well. So in the end, 1 for 1, but it was a kill for Gambit. Was it enough, Monty? You're shaking your head, man.
Well, you have to make that kill and then obviously not die afterwards. Betsy giving one back to Coco. They don't have any tools now to get pressure on the map. And in fact, they all get chunked out. And look at this. MadLife and Ambition instantly in the enemy jungle getting those deep wards in. So you can't trade right now. Gambit is really, really kind of all in with this strategy. And you have to make those clean tower dives. And I think their choice of going on to Shy, you don't want to play against Shy's teleport. Shy is a fantastic teleport user. He will show up on the other side of the map. So they try and do it over there, but MadLife was already en route, and they didn't have the wards to make sure Ambition wasn't there.
Yeah, pretty much. It looks like, luckily for Gambit, though, they'll be able to pick up that red buff after the little bit of the invade for CJ. And both teams kind of backing off for now. Teleport advantage not really going for either side at the moment, as Cabochard did use his pretty much right after Shy did to get back to lane.
It's going to be a little scary for Gambit if MadLife and Ambition can keep reading the Gambit plays, because as that was what was setting up, Ambition was moving into the lane towards Shy. And if Gambit don't get the jump, if Gambit don't gain control, as we said, the late game is in favor of CJE Entus. So for a European squad, we need to see what they decide to do.
Yeah, and if you notice, there was a ward that just expired deep in the mid lane, and that's the key wards that you need against TF. Those are the ones you want right on either side of the mid lane so that you can see him if he walks off and whether or not he's going to use the Destiny and the Gate in order to make those kind of plays. So if we can see CJ continuing to put those up.
Oh, here we go. Another gank onto Shy, trying to get back to his turret. There's a Cataclysm with no flash. He's in big trouble here, waiting for his teammates. They can't get there in time. And Gambit really punishing that lack of flash for Shy.
And this is something Gambit will do consistently. Diamond will basically pitch a tent, get some s'mores, and hang out high-fiving Cabochard with kill credits all day long. He does it in EU. It tends to lead to a fed Cabochard who in Europe is able to carry the game. He's got a CS advantage, and we need to see if this Jarvan pick is going to work out for Gambit.
And he is going to be going for a hell of a lot of damage with this pickup too. They want to blow up the Kog'Maw immediately. You have to be able to engage and instantly kill the Kog'Maw. And by keeping the Lulu down, they're preventing the AP from really getting stacked onto Shy. So you have those big shields, you have those bigger wild growths, and you're more elusive, of course, with the Whimsy as well.
Well, Shy's been a very good Lulu player in Korea this season, but the danger is that, if you get held down, then Lulu kind of becomes sort of support too, on the team, and you don't have that utility, you don't have the damage that you need from that top Lulu.
Well, take a look at that. Betsy's got his ultimate available, has had for a little while, and I think for Gambit, they're going to continue looking to punish waves with no tower for Shy to fall back to, and the wave pushing towards Gambit. I'm interested to see if Cabochard tries to freeze it or tries to hold it, make Shy's life a little more difficult, force some more decisions to be made about where he moves around the map. But for the time being, Gambit holding even a small advantage thanks to having that tower killed in the bottom lane.
And of course, Cabochard is going to be so dangerous here if he gets rolling as well, because part of the strategy for Gambit has to be to split push into this game, because if he goes for this full damage Jarvan and he continues to build into a Hydra, he's going to be able to push so effectively, and with the constant threat of Betsy TPing into his lane to finish off kills, who on CJ is going to hold the lane? It's very difficult. They are going to lane swap and let Shy move a little bit forward.
It's interesting to see if CJ can remain even, because of course if Gambit ever do put themselves in a sort of wave pushing multiple lanes, having teleport from Cabochard, having that Destiny from Betsy, we'll see if they can split push. Gambit as a team have not successfully split pushed in the EU LCS, but they've not played a Jarvan top nor a Twisted Fate, so we need to see if they can actually demonstrate some growth in their own playstyle today.
You can see a lot better wards right now around the Dragon from CJ Entus. They've taken that threat very seriously as their bottom tower now down and they are forced to play forward. They're going to go for it.
Yep, that's right. CJ starting that Dragon off. Gambit grouping. The thing is that Pinoy is still way up in the top lane. Shy has his teleport up, so that's enough of a danger that CJ should be able to take this one pretty easily, and they do. Gambit not really in a position to respond to that one, and that's exactly what CJ wanted.
Betsy didn't even use his Destiny for vision, so I wonder if Gambit just had no intention of fighting over that objective at all.
I think that was a pretty easy one to give up. Again, you know, with Pinoy all the way up in the top lane, I don't think they were really planning on contesting that one from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't because of that, but at the same time, Gambit does need to snowball now and start getting those objectives now. They can't be giving up things for free when they do have a lot of TPs available.
They're going to lose this bot turret too, maybe.
Pinoy late to recall on the top lane, maybe a little bit greedy with the wave, and this is going to cost a tower, so CJ going to even up that tower score.
This is really poor defensive play from Gambit coming in, and we'll see if they make somebody pay for it.
Well,
and they have the aggression. Oh man, Shy getting jumped on again. He manages to get out of the Cataclysm. Betsy comes out, lands at Goldcard. Another kill for TF. And he'll be able to get out fairly cleanly, it looks like.
And again, off of Cabochard's laning, but Betsy gets the kill credit. I think that's very important. 2 Destinies used, it has resulted in kills, and it's going to get another tower.
And Lulu, too, a champion that isn't very useful late if you fall this far behind. So Shy really going to have some work to do in the late game. But Coco's been left alone to pretty much free farm right here. And Ezreal is one of his best champions, and he has shown time and time again he's outplayed Faker on Ezreal in games previously. So it's something that you have to take as a very serious threat here. And I'm curious what he's going to be building this game. If he's going to be going for Trinity Force next, or if he could be going for the Iceborne Gauntlet instead, which in this situation may be a bit better. It will prevent him from getting blown up by Cabochard, and they need a lot of ability to kite.
Yeah, and you notice that Edward, he's also gone for an early distortion on his Moby Boots upgrade. Every single thing about Gambit's team comp is just engage, engage, engage. We've not seen Eddie necessarily have an impact yet. In the laning phase, the head-to-head didn't really go his way, but there is a big CS advantage for Pinoy, 30 over spaces Kog'Maw, so that's nothing to be sniffed at either at the 15-minute mark.
Yeah, and also the distortion enchantment on Betsy as well, so this is a very focused Gambit. They came in with an interesting strategy, and it has given them a small lead at this point in time, so whether they can hold it out into the late game, obviously they've done some work on Shy so far, and Shy, again, having to fall back to a tier 2.
And more importantly, if Gambit can make use of Pinoy's Power Strike. He's just finished his Trinity Force. The rest of the team has been moving at the right time, but it was Pinoy that was late, leaving the top lane, that cost Gambit a tower. They can't afford too many of those mistakes.
Yeah, this is great. You're absolutely on point. Look at this. Everybody moving right into the mid lane right now. And they don't have great wave clear. Coco has to ult in order for them to really make short work of these waves, and they could just group and push for the time being.
You know, Ambition's Nidalee, we did talk about him being such a good Nidalee player in the mid lane back in the day, but he hasn't really been around that much. He's gotten a lot more farm than Diamond, but Diamond's been creating the kills. I wonder how a Rengar pick would have maybe worked out in the place of this Nidalee.
Well, he was still there to counter gank with Nidalee in that bottom side, and look at this, more action.
Edward in the bush. Wow, Ambition doesn't check it. They're going to turn. There's the Timbers. Ambition taken out. The gate comes in anyway. They don't even need it. Meanwhile, Diamond in a little bit of trouble. They'll be able to back off, though. Ambition just walked right past that bush, didn't he?
Well, actually, I think Gambit could have gotten a lot more right there had they planned that one better, because Diamond was in underneath the turret, and they invested both Cataclysm and Destiny into killing Ambition. So they may have been able to clean up even more and perhaps gotten to tier 2 had they saved some of these abilities. Instead, they're going to take a lot of damage onto their mid lane turret from Coco. So there was a lot used for just one kill right there, and Gambit is dependent on these cooldowns in order to kind of keep this game moving forward.
That is true, and with the Dragon coming up in about 2 minutes, they're going to need to be very, very careful about how they use this when that gets a little bit closer. Pushing up that mid lane for now.
I honestly think a better use of Gambit's time was pushing the mid lane right there, because here's the thing about Twisted Fate. If you get that outer ring of turrets down first and you have that advantage, you open up so many ways for TF to outplay the enemy team. They had They had that Trinity Force power spike before Kog'Maw completed his. Now they may get it.
Well, we'll see if they can commit. Diamond and Cabochard are all the way towards the top half of the map, so not a full complement of Gambit members in that mid lane.
Shy 0-3-1 this game. He's been held down pretty fast, but he has managed to finish that Morellonomicon. Just in time, too, as that dragon is coming up in about a minute now. You can see CJ trying to take vision control around that area. Oh, Coco takes an opportunity to get some damage in. Got to be careful, though. Gets hit with that gold card. Kick back in. Can they turn it around? Ambition coming in. Manages to get the kill onto Diamond now. Cabochard on his way out space. Putting a lot of damage in on that Kog'Maw. This mid lane turret may be in a little bit of trouble now. Yeah, still a lot of wave clear, though, but good for CJ.
Yeah, they really turned that around instantly. You could see the speed at which some of these TPs are coming in from CJ. Now they have that 30-second timer. Diamond will be back up in Ambition.
I think he's going to get dunked, and he is dunked.
That is a lot of damage coming out of that top lane Jarvan, but that's what happens.
And something else to point out, that mid lane fight, Pinoy was once again not in the right place at the right time. He was down bottom. As the engage started, Gambit tried to jump into CJ, and then as Pinoy was roaming up, he was late to the party. Gambit already lost a member.
Yeah, still, that was a great play by Cabochard to turn this one around. Found the jungler at a crucial juncture because now Dragon is live. Ambition still down for the count.
Yeah, that's right. If CJ can hold off long enough for Ambition to come back, then that lack of Cataclysm for Gambit may be a little bit of a disadvantage, but it looks like they're going to start that dragon right now. And is there anything CJ can do to stop this?
They don't have to fight this at all. Maybe they'll try and land some pokes, see what they can get from the outside, but the main thing is preventing any further objectives from being taken, like the mid lane turret.
I really like the fact Pinoy was trying to zone away CJ, get some rockets down Betsy for backup of those wild cards. So Gambit secure the dragon. Actually, thanks to Cabochard finding the kill, which was thanks to having a ward in that part of the jungle. But now can they defend? Again, Pinoy went bottom lane. Gambit most likely going to lose this tower. Can't rely on Twisted Fate alone.
And this is the thing. You keep pointing out Pinoy, and I think you're absolutely right. He's been in the wrong place pretty much this whole game. He's in top lane when the dragon is being contested. They don't have adequate vision over that objective early on, and then he immediately retreats down to the bottom. There's no actual defense. So in the end, it's a tower for a tower, and we only see a 500 gold advantage here at 20 minutes. Gambit is really running out of time.
Yeah, I really hate to sound like a broken record, but the longer this game stays, even the happier CJ is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Despite the 0-3 shy, he's still relevant. He's still got AP. With the Lucidity Boots and the Morellonomicon CDR, he's going to have multiple shields, and he's going to have Wild Growth basically for every engage. You know Wild Growth is going to be up before Destiny on the side of Gambit. So I just think for Gambit, they need to try find a way to break into the CJ jungle and get some deep vision down to make more aggressive plays.
And the scary thing about playing this full damage Jarvan is that he dies so fast in the late game. You just literally can't stay alive through burst. If you're lucky, you'll jump onto somebody on Cataclysm and hit them down to 50% HP. But with all of the defensive abilities on this CJ team, you get a Lulu shield down and a Nidalee heal, not even to mention, you know, the Nami as well. Yeah. And there's not really going to be anything to do, because if we just kind of theory craft out how these team fights should be going for Gambit, it's Cabochard going in, maybe Betsy comes in for a flank with Azonias on TF, and Edward following up, you know, with a Tibbers, because you don't want to have to use that flash if you don't have to, if you can already pre-engage with Cataclysm. And MadLife can nullify so much of that with just a single tidal wave, and the more that they stack up, once we see the Crucible finished on MadLife, it just becomes harder and harder and harder and harder for Gambit to win.
And it's so important to note, despite the fact that CJ are behind in CS in the top of the AD carry role, because of the towers and some crucial kills on their side, they're not behind in itemization. So
no, not at all.
Gambit's window of opportunity gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and the longer they're not engaging and jumping on CJ, the happier CJ will be. So,
well, that's the thing. I mean, Gambit has been able to get in there and make early kills, but every time they have, CJ has been able to answer with an objective, answer with a turret, and at the very least get kills of their own, relatively keep up in CS. So how much of a window really was there? Yeah, Ambition hops out of it, flashes out of the Cataclysm. There's a flash from Diamond. They kick him away, though. They get the turret in mid, but Ambition escapes, and they used, again, a lot to try to take him down.
Yeah, kind of a preemptive kick from Diamond right there. That wasn't going to be enough to actually get the execute off. So Ambition actually saves his skin. They do take some jungle on the way out, and at least they get a turret for it, start to open up that gold lead again, but it's 1,000 is very small.
Something we also have to highlight, I was touching on CS for the lanes, but the jungle disparity is massive. Diamond's 66 CS to Ambition's 109. For a guy playing Lee Sin, he really needs to have a bigger impact in this early game, and it simply did not work out. Is this going to steal?
No. Nope. Not quite. It was close. It was close.
They got me excited, the observers.
It's not Faker's Ezreal. It's Coco's Ezreal. It's good. It's good, but two-shot barrage steals aren't quite as much there. But yeah, you're absolutely right about the two junglers. I mean, same kills, same assists. Here we go. TF coming in. It looks like they may catch MadLife. Whoa! Never mind. Goodbye, TF. CJ turns this one around space with the kill there. The Twisted Fate. He was there and then he wasn't.
He got MadLifed. Insta bubble.
Right. Oh,
Tibbers hits.
Tibbers. It does hit right at the end of that dodge for Ambition. He's going to get taken out. I thought they missed, but it caught him at the end. But Pinoy may still be in a little bit of trouble here. CJ, they get the speed from that shrine. Will be enough to catch up. Not quite.
He can still keep on moving. There's the arcade shift.
Yeah, there it is. And the flash will secure it for Coco. Kills evened up now, and CJ finally takes that gold lead by 200. It's there.
If you're Betsy, you cannot engage like that before you have a Zhonya's Hourglass. That it shows to me a little bit that Betsy is very uncomfortable on this champion because you can't. The CF. The way he plays and the way he engages is so dependent on his itemization that when you try and go all in like that, he just straight up got knocked up and instantly destroyed.
Well, TF is it's a very snowbally champ, but it's also a very unforgiving champ too. I mean, yeah, you can get some early kills with that TPs, but at some point in the game, if you do something like Pinoy just did, you can give a lot back to the other team too. So it does require a very kind of delicate level of play.
As long as MadLife holds onto his bubble, he's always going to be able to have one additional step up over Betsy, and Mikhail's Crucible has been completed recently, so that gold card threat, or the Tibbers threat, is now somewhat negated. Still going to be some importance and space to be in the right place because there's so many threats they're going to be trying to jump on him.
Yeah, Ambition too. Just in terms of the itemization, he's narrowing in on Azonia's Hourglass right now, which will be absolutely huge for them. That's just another way that he can dodge all of this hard CC that's going to be aimed at him. And the Nidalee, like you're saying, the farm differential is going to be very big because Nidalee is such an insanely powerful late game jungler on 4 or 5 items. Her poke is just absolutely enormous. The heal that she gets, and she's just going to make the Kog'Maw auto attack even faster than he already is. Really not very confident in Gambit. They've lost that gold lead now by 25 minutes. It's been a defensive game from CJ, but this is typical CJ. Wait it out, play for the late game.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a very, very, very typical CJ because the early leads their opponents get early on doesn't seem to matter a whole lot. For years, they've relied on the mid and late game in their team fighting. They will lose that turret up and top.
Small misplay, I think. But then again, CJ don't have the strongest wave clear, so it would have always been difficult to defend that tower anyway.
I think they'll trade it for a dragon, though.
I do think there is a tiny, tiny bit of threat that if Gambit can surprise CJ, maybe from the flank, maybe from a Destiny, because of the all-in damage of the Jarvan and the theoretical damage of the Hourglass TF, there is the possibility to eliminate Space or Coco early, but that is the only way for Gambit to really make a play in that scenario, and it's going to be so difficult to pull off if they get CJ all the way to the inhibitor turrets. There's not a lot of space to jump in behind or Destiny behind for Gambit.
Yeah, Gambit, this also goes back to the fact that they think they were really too passive and focused on kills. When you get those kills, you have to make sure you're instantly in that right place to continue to knock down those towers and just snowball that advantage. So they got that lead, and then it just kind of slowly drifted away without them pressing and playing aggressively enough here.
Well, Gambit, for now, in a little bit of a rut as they try to find a way to sort of bring this one back around to their side. The team fights are going to have to be, and this is where the kind of unforgiving part comes in, is that their team fights, they can win them, but they have to be so perfect on every single thing they do. And if they don't win one soon, we're going to see, more CC counters. We're going to see more cleanses. Banshee's Veils are going to maybe start coming in here too. And all of that hard CC is going to get shrugged off pretty easily by CJ.
Yeah, and even if you do get all that all in, Shy's very close to finishing a death cap most likely.
Yeah.
So all of the shields, the wild growth is going to save whoever you try to jump on top of. Eddie has been sitting on this Moby Boots distortion boots for the better part of 15 minutes. And we've simply not seen enough engages. If you're going to invest that much gold, I feel like you should be looking for those opportunities. Maybe this is that time.
Well, they might try to catch Ambition here. Pinoy and Edward right there's a flash shivers, but it's just going to get cleansed immediately. MadLife there with the Mikhail's Crucible. They'll turn this one around. Edward, there's the tidal wave. True Shot Barrage comes in as well. Can they maybe catch Edward? And Pinoy, Betsy there to defend. Maybe a little bit of an overreaction for CJ, but maybe they'll get something out of this after all. Edward still being chased. That's another kill for Space. 3-0-2 now on that Kog'Maw.
You have to be grouped if you're Gambit, because you cannot hope to escape the speed of this CJ composition. They can turn it around on you so very quickly. The mobility off of Nidalee, the speed boost that you get from Nami, the speed boost that you get from Lulu, there's no escape. You have to commit 100%.
And it's so funny, right? We just talk about Edward looking for times to engage. He does it without the backup of the rest of his team. And, you know, in these skirmishes, CJ is always going to have more utility or more damage or more mobility. So, like you've already said, Monty, Gambit need to be grouped. The one thing that does play into Gambit's favor a little bit is the ring of vision that they've stuck down through CJ's jungle. But they now need to make use of it. They need to actually play around that, either push the bottom lane or look to collapse on CJ.
Well, we're still kind of seeing Gambit try for plays that may work at like 10 to 15 minutes, but don't work at 30 minutes. You know, the itemization is there for CJ now. We saw Ambition get out of that last gank so easily with the cleanse from MadLife.
Oh, Betsy, he's looking for blood, Doa.
Yep,
Can he find it?
He's trying to go in. Well, he's going to try to find it on the Space. Space genuinely in a lot of trouble here. Cataclysm comes in, and it looks like, wow, he flashes out. Tries to run, but still the shutdown for Cabochard. And a kill for Gambit. They managed to find Space on his own. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, CJ trying to defend that turret. Looks like they will for now. You can see, I mean, the ganks are still there for Gambit.
It's a good kill, but can Gambit get a tower off of it? That's the question. The big damage dealing threat from CJ's away, but Shy's got the strongest wave clear outside of True Shot Barrage for the team. And look, Gambit have run out of minions. They simply can't push, despite getting their 7th kill of the game.
Yeah, these kills are absolutely meaningless at this stage. They need much, much more. They need to be able to be in a situation where they can actually convert that into a Baron. And by making plays into the bottom lane and using that Destiny, there is no follow-up. There's no dragon on the map right now. There's no way to instantly try and grab a Baron or really do anything off of it whatsoever. So I mean, it's nice to line your pockets with some of these kills just a little bit, but it's an objective-based game. You have to take more.
Well, Monty, I'm a believer. Edward's working his way towards that righteous glory. We've seen the power that Cabochard has had. 4-0-2 on that top lane Jarvan. Got some tankiness to back up the damage. 30 minutes into the game, yes, the chips are falling into CJ's favor. One strong team fight could equate to an inhibitor, could equate to a Baron. And that can change the entire dynamic of Gambit's strategy.
Yeah, they got to do it now, though, because CJ...
Yeah. Oh, he misses his Q on the MadLife. Wow. Uncharacteristic miss for a diamond there.
And the thing that's coming into play right now is we're going to see double blades on the 2 AD carries and double hourglasses on the top end jungle. And at that point, they're going to be able to kite so efficiently and dodge the hard CC that it's going to be ridiculously difficult. So when CJ hits that power spike, they may just start trying to look for fights.
So it's going to be the 5 Ds of dodgeball.
I think you're right. I can't remember really many of them, but,
dodge,
I agree.
Duck, dive, and dodge.
Okay, there you
Patches
go.
a Houlihan. He is somewhat of a hero to me.
I'll keep that in mind. Do you have the little picture above your bedroom frame?
I have one over the hotel, actually.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes.
Cool.
So that much of a fan.
You should bring it tomorrow.
I'll do my best.
Set it on the desk.
I'll do my best, but it might be sacrilege. You know, he belongs at home.
I see.
Home is where the Houlihan is.
Well, you know, when people ask you how can you sleep at night, now you can just tell them, well, I've got that picture and he helps me get through it. Drag it up now. We'll see if Gambit can make it through this one. CJ, again, looking pretty strong in this impending possible fight.
Well, QSS picked up by Space, so as if the safety tools weren't enough. Look at that mobility.
And he doesn't even need a Last Whisper here either, so he can straight up go third item with this QSS because Cabochard has built, has no armor.
Oh, here's the team fight, Doa.
I like kick Coco out of that, but Ezreal can get right back in. Nice tidal wave disrupts Gambit quite heavily. Ambition picking up the first kill. Cabochard comes in onto Coco in the back line, but Ambition already there to pick up the double. What a great play from MadLife. It just totally prevented the team fight from happening. 2 kills for CJ, an easy dragon. And I think this is pretty indicative of what we're going to be seeing for the rest of the game, unfortunately, for Gambit.
As long as CJ continues to group at this point in the game, there's very little chance that Gambit will be able to do anything at all. If we look at the fight right here, Diamond kicks Coco out. I mean, that really doesn't even do anything at all. The counter initiation right there with the tidal wave. Cabochard goes in, but they're just too tanky now. And that's the problem with building full damage Jarvan. I'm sure a lot of you guys know from solo queue. It's at least popular in Korean solo queue.
Yeah.
Drives me insane to see that top lane Jarvan so tanky because he just can't do anything in the late game.
And really, again, so much pressure on Diamond, and he's simply not delivering this matchup. He had very little impact in the early stages of the game. He's down 60-odd CS. You know, that's 2 kicks that have been very, very awkward onto the members of CJ throughout the course of the game. And if you're not setting up those kills into Coco or space, there's simply no way this team comp's going to work. And unfortunately for Gambit, all of the small positives that they had in the early game have not equated into anywhere near enough of a lead to deal with this late game team comp. CJ is completely enabled in online.
Well, yeah, and look at this. I mean, Cabochard only just now starting to build armor, and Space will have that Last Whisper by the time any armor gets down onto this team outside of Betsy. Of course, it is very difficult to itemize against CJ's composition due to the intense mixed damage that's coming through, but there's been... The window is gone. I mean, the strategy was very clear coming from Gambit, but...
It was a good one, too, initially. It was conceptually, it was something that really could work.
I liked it. I liked it,
As
a team, Gambit really like to play aggressive. They've got players that like to get in your face. So I agree with you, though, in theory and the concept, but in the execution, I just don't know if it was as aggressive as it needed to be. But we look to be in somewhat of a tower trade scenario.
Yeah, and CJ could push this one all day, man. I don't think they're too worried about the trade.
You can't base race this at all.
Look at how fast they're just tearing through those. And they're just going to go right onto the inhibitor turret. I mean, the bot lane for Gambit is there to try to defend, but this is not a race that Gambit wants to take apart in. And one of the scary things now for this game as well, too, that with the double blade on CJ, if they get an opportunity, they can take down Baron so fast.
Yeah, ridiculously quick Barons that are possible here. They need very, very little time. The crab will be expiring right there, and so will the last shred of vision around that Baron. Yeah,
and despite the gold and kills and towers looking even, the headroom for CJ Entus' team comp and the possibilities that they have, on the condition they don't give up an early kill, CJ can simply do whatever they like in a team fight because that is Gambit's only way of winning a team fight. Maybe they can split push, but Shy's doing such a good job.
No, that was a Destiny used purely to check if they were doing Baron.
I was wondering.
And now that that's down, they have to face check it. So this is likely going to be...
Javelin to the face?
Oh, boy. Yeah, wow, that's a lot of damage on the best beat. Aqua Prison on the Diamond to prevent the safeguard. That's an easy kill for Space. Diamond in a little bit of trouble as well, taking a hit from that ebb and flow. Has to dive into the Raptor pit. A little bit of gold for Pinoy. Yeah.
And this Lulu is just so dangerous to give CJ or the GE Tigers. You know, we were talking about it this weekend, but that is one of the things you have to take away because the Koreans are so good at solo lane Lulu. Certainly. And it just, that's the level of skill on that champion just hasn't really appeared outside of that region. And even when falling so far behind here, Shy managed to find the farm. He's been behind the whole game, but is caught up and knows his limits very well.
I think they want to fight this. Well, they try. They lost that tier 2, but I think that's a worthy trade for a Baron, of course. And that's exactly what we were just talking about, right? A small opportunity for CJ and a very quick Baron.
Yeah, any day of the week, you'll trade in a turret for a Baron. But for Gambit, you know, they tried to make this work, and unfortunately, they've fallen behind. I really want to reiterate the Lulu solo lane just has been underwhelming in Europe, but Gambit, they might find ambition one more time.
Yep, that's right, trying to take him out. MadLife with a big Aqua Prison, not quite enough to save him though. Nice Cataclysm from Cabochard, that may be a kill on the MadLife. Certainly will be. Edward picks that one up. And so Gambit still showing they've got some teeth, catching a couple members of CJ in the jungle.
And if only that had happened before the Baron was done, because that's exactly the play that Gambit would need to actually contest one of these objectives. And Ambition has been playing a little bit foolishly without vision at points during this game and getting caught out. And he really makes his team pay for it right there.
Well, his Nidalee has been okay. You know, it hasn't been really spectacular, but it hasn't been that bad either. And I think one of the problems we've been seeing with Ambition all season long in Korea is that sometimes he does get a little bit kind of wacky in where he decides to walk in the late game.
Well, he's been so do or die based on his ganks on Coco in the mid lane as well. That's really been the heart of CJ's strategy, is to get Coco rolling. This game he just chose to farm, wanting to play passively, wanting to respond to the lanes instead. But he hasn't, I agree, been the biggest factor.
He's farmed up well enough. Banshee's Veil now, Hourglass complete. He's even got the defensive stats to back up the AP damage on that Nidalee. Interesting to see that he picks it up at the Intellectual Masters World Championship. Arguably, because the competition plays so much Nidalee.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting.
Forming it to be a contested pick in that regard.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is the time to bust it out.
Yeah.
For sure, just because we do see such an emphasis on that jungler from a lot of these Western teams.
Well, we knew it was going to happen for Ambition at some point, too. You know, like we mentioned before, he was such a successful Nidalee player when he was a mid laner on CJ Blaze that it seemed natural that eventually he'd move into the jungle Nidalee as well. And this is his first game on it competitively as a jungle Nidalee.
Well, he's got the AP to back up his former mid lane ways. Look at all the Gambit wards in the bottom half of the river. There was 5 of them in this area. So there are Were Dragons being started. But again, Gambit, they need to try find the right target. And look at the poke damage from CJ.
And also
Gambit
the heals.
can't find an opportunity.
Yeah, Coco did take a little bit of damage right there, but instantly back to full.
Now Dragon getting very low. Coco already looking at that team fight. Actually, Diamond stole the Dragon. CJ comes in, though, with a kill onto Betsy, so getting a little bit of revenge for that one. But I think Gambit, they really do need to prevent those dragons, and I guess Diamond jumping in and stealing, that's one way to do it, huh?
Well, that did prevent the 4 dragon stacks onto CJ, which
that is pretty
would
big.
have made this game accelerate towards its close, but they're just dashing up the mid lane, and with Betsy dead, they lost a lot of their wave clear right there.
No Destiny used, no Righteous Glory used. Gambit were half-hearted in that engage on the dragon. Ends up costing them, but Diamond has stolen a few this year already.
Okay, well, here's where we get to see if Space can channel his inner prey and play this Kog'Maw up to the level we've seen the GE Tigers do.
Well, the thing about the Juggernaut composition is that Kog'Maw is so fast and so shielded, he can just walk up and shoot the tower. And that's why it's incredibly difficult to defend against the siege, because you do not need a minion wave.
And there goes the first inhibitor of the game, taken by CJ.
Just like clockwork, just so well executed.
Yeah, very, very crisp. The thing about CJ and the thing about the Korean teams in general is that they really know how to get everything they can out of small advantages. You know, they're very decisive about, okay, we got this kill, now we need to move in and do this immediately. And when you don't hesitate like that, you can get them.
It's quite funny to see as well, because Gambit's comp had so much threat, but it was also very, very linear. So in order for Gambit to have made this work, they also needed to play around the vision very well, and they simply have not had enough vision control behind CJ's lines. So every time Gambit have looked to engage, CJ Entus have been well aware of it. They backed away. If you think of that previous Dragon fight as a prime example. And the only times that Gambit have really picked up kills was either camping Shine Lane or jumping onto Ambition where CJ didn't have that the wards placed.
Yeah, that is true.
MadLife here with the Talisman as well, picking that up. We did see it used during that last engagement. Just another tool to get out, kite out of these engagements. And it's... and an elixir of sorcery as well. You got to pick up that extra AP. You know, I like the true damage on my tidal waves personally.
Hey man, this is just the next step to like Nashor's Tooth, and then you could just go full attack speed damage on the Ambition. A little bit of trouble. There's the gold card. Zonia's right after that though. Does it give CJ time to respond? Ambition's still in trouble. There's the Cataclysm. They use so much, but they do get it. Betsy with the kill there. How is CJ going to respond? Coco over the wall has got a lot of shields. There's a QE combo though. Tidal wave comes through, doesn't save Coco. There's a double for Betsy. Pinoy still a little bit low here. They are pushing CJ back, but no. So wow, CJ Space gets the triple kill. Is he gonna get more? There's the Quadra. Cabochard already way back, though. I don't think this is going to be a penta, but CJ's trying, man. They're rushing for it. But this Kog'Maw, man, he has reached critical mass. He is doing so much damage now.
And that's the thing that works so well in this composition. If you invest as many cooldowns as they did on not Kog'Maw, Kog'Maw will kill you.
Yes, that is true.
Composition win. That's what CJ happy for. Throw it on the front line, throw it on Ambition. It took so long to take him down. CJ clean up. They're going to get another inhibitor from this one. Death timers are still so long.
Yeah, the death timers are getting to be a bit of a concern. CJ may be able to push this one a little bit farther. They certainly don't need to, and yeah, they're not going to. But with 2 lanes of super minions pushing through, and like we just saw, you know, well, like we're seeing now, look at everything they use on Ambition.
Yeah, Ambition actually dodging the gold card right there with the Zhonya's Hourglass, and then the knock-up, so they invest so much into taking out Ambition, and yet here comes the cavalry at the end. Coco right there on the side, the zipping forward Kog'Maw. You start to see how much damage he can do. Cabochard goes in again, gets knocked up, and it's just lights out for Gambit after that. They don't have any more tools to deal with this. Space perfectly happy, face tanking everything in the world right now. And Diamond certainly not able to do enough damage. Space just lifesteal tanks him out of the rest of that fight.
Yeah, that's a quadra for Space. And now Baron, the point of contention for these two teams. Look at all the Banshees fails too as well. The top and jungle still for CJ. Looking pretty safe.
The longer Gambit try to dance around Baron in the river, the happier CJ's going to be. They got super minions in 2 lanes. It's just a matter of time until CJ either decide to commit on Gambit to let the super minions do the work or go for Baron. Because again, they're going to melt that so quickly. And as long as Gambit is in the river, they're not defending their base. So it's just a ticking time bomb here until CJ have enough presence either through minions or to maybe catch Eddie out of position.
Well, the nice thing that Gambit has had this entire game is that they've had great control over the Rift Scuttler, and that has actually delayed CJ quite. Holy smokes, wow. That is a fast Kog'Maw.
Goodbye, Edward. Yep, Kog'Maw is basically a nightmare for everybody on Gambit Gaming right now. He's fast, he's got shields, he does tons of damage. The Juggernaut. Yeah, that is it. That's it right there.
And this is why you have to ban Lulu, because the Juggernaut, you don't ban the Kog'Maw, you just ban the Lulu because it shuts it down. It is core to this composition, and it's something that no one really else but the Koreans have been able to pull off. We've seen it work sometimes in China. Snake especially has been running it, but this is the GE Tiger special right here, and CJ delivering.
Yep.
Not very frequently played in EU, but does have 1 or 2 wins under its belt. But fact of the matter is, Space is unstoppable, but Cabochard wants up.
Yeah, Cabochard coming in, but look at just all the damage the Wild Growth keeping on the left. Tidal Wave comes through, 1 kill for Space, double kill for Space. Corki manages to get one in onto Coco. Ambition returns, but CJ cleaning out this fight easily. There's an ace, only losing Coco. And that is going to be the end of the game. Looks like they were like, oh, we don't really need that inhibitor after all. The Nexus turrets go down. Only Edward up to try to defend, and CJ Entus off the back of the Juggernaut strategy will be able to survive that aggressive early game from Gambit Gaming, take down the Nexus, and win the first game here in Group B. GG.